Warm welcome to another episode of the Learning Podcast. Very warm welcome to Shubhayu Sengupta. Uh, Thank you so much, Shubhayu, for joining today. Any welcome words before we start up the podcast?
No, would just like to thank you, Ravi, for inviting me for this session. Always a delight to meet up with old colleagues and friends. Uh, Please remember, I said old colleagues, friends are still there. So it's not old friends. So truly a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shubhayu. So let me quickly go through your background. Shubhayu has done his electrical engineering degree from Jadavpur University and PMR, Personal Management and Industrial Relations from XLRI Jamshedpur. He's worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers, Swiss Re, Wells Fargo, EY, HGS, Sagility, and Proplax. Shubhayu comes with more than 25 years of deep human resources experience across both line HR and consulting in global corporations across multiple geographies and domains. He's worked in the Big Four consulting professional services organizations, global financial institutions out of the US and Europe, and in the BPM sector in the healthcare business. He has got extensive experience around competency design, talent management, compensation benefits design, streamlining performance management, right sizing people, policies, practices, and driving the tenets of culture, which provide the engagement glue in the organization. Shubhayu, more than this, is known as a humane HR leader, and that's been my experience too. For the audience, for this podcast with Shubhayu, we've got four themes. We will look at his insights for young L&D professionals and HR management grads. We're focusing on L&D because I've got the background of L&D and I want to take advantage of that. The second theme is on the future of learning and artificial intelligence in human resources. The third one, as usual, will be on layoffs and humane HR. And the last one, the influencers, the leaders who have actually influenced Shubhayu in his corporate and personal journey as well. So those are the four themes, Shubhayu. I'll start off with the first question. What are the top three corporate lessons which helped you thrive in your 25-year-old career, Shubhayu?
I think is this also an extension of the question on what would be my suggestion
Yeah.
for HR professionals and L&D professionals?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think one can probably juxtapose both. And in my view, they are very difficult actually to do it in three statements, Ravi. But I would think one is I have always been a very strong believer in functional competence. I think the domain expertise can never be, not thought of as being one of the most important elements of how successful and how happy you are in doing what you're doing. So strong and deep functional knowledge is very critical. I mean, there's no substitute for that, and that also helps you, transcend, the different challenges which face you as HR and learning evolves as a function. So if you have your basics right, it's very easy to then, with an attitude of wanting to learn all the time, an innate passion and desire for what you do, will help you thrive in any environment. So that for me would be number one. I think the second part is sometimes we tend to, perhaps not give so much importance is understanding the business that your function is enabling. Too often we don't kind of pay too much of attention to understand absolutely the nuts and bolts of the business function that you are supporting.
Right.
And typically what happens because of that is you become a very well-intentioned professional, whether you are HR or learning, but you're not a relevant HR or learning professional.
Yeah.
And I think to really earn the seat on the table and be a trusted business advisor, you need to understand the business. Your entire positioning of your function and what it adds in terms of value to the organization gets that much more stronger and robust if you understand the business. You speak the language of the business.
Yeah.
It's a very different conversation than you're having with a business leader.
Yeah.
That would be my second point. The third would be, something which, I genuinely believe in is having passion and pride in what you do. At whatever stage you are, and specifically for HR and L&D professionals, remember, and of course, this is what I strongly believe in, we are truly privileged to be in a function where we are impacting people's lives. So if you have the pride and the passion with a sufficient dose of humility, I think you will do well. So these are perhaps the three attributes which I have tried personally, and I haven't succeeded too much, I must confess. But I genuinely believe these help you or hold you in good stead as you build your profession.
Great, great. Thank you so much, Shubhayu. I think moving on to the theme two on future of learning specifically. So, I mean, 90s and 2000s, we have seen e-learning, the dominance of e-learning, and instructor-led training was always there. And post-COVID, we found that virtual instructor-led training and digital learning actually became very, very famous. And Josh Bersin, typically HR leader, talks about learning in the flow of work. Added to that with ChatGPT, it's helping the learning professionals to create curriculum and lesson plans for any topic using AI. So given this context, how do you see the future of learning, Shubhayu?
I have been very privileged to work with some fantastic learning professionals. And, one fundamental thing I've learned in that journey is that, while AI, digital, e-learning, these are for me enablers or tools to help a learner assimilate more and make it more relevant. But fundamentally, I don't think something has changed, which is your learning outcome based or not? Right? I mean, having a list of learning programs and then, having a fantastic tool to help people learn is perhaps not the only solution. We need to really take a step back and ask ourselves, is our learning content that we are creating relevant for the audience that is attending that learning, whether it's through, digital, whether it's through e-learning, whether it's through instructor-led learning, whatever be the case, right? So I think that's very, very important. I mean, unless you have that clearly designed and designed effectively. See, remember, I mean, this is one thing which I've always believed, and you might have heard about this when we work together. When you go to a doctor, you don't tell the doctor that I need paracetamol and I need this medicine, right? You tell the doctor that these are your symptoms. This is what you are suffering from. The doctor is the expert who will tell you what you exactly need. And it could be psychosomatic. There's nothing wrong with you. It's something to do with the mind.
Yeah.
Right? So there's no medicine required. It could be one solution. So for me, a learning leader or a learning professional is a doctor.
Right.
Right? You don't go to a learning person and say, I need training in communication. You need to go and have that discussion with the learning professional, or the learning professional would facilitate a discussion where we'll try to understand the change in behaviors that are required, the upgradation skill that is required, right? And then design a curriculum which is specific to the need so that there's an outcome at the end of it, right? So all your AI, I mean, see, all this is very, very useful, right? I mean, it helps things move faster. It also helps address different ways people learn, right? I mean, at the end of the day, here we are talking about a very complex world where you have a workforce of multiple generations.
Yes.
Please also remember one thing that we tend to kind of have a very kind of broad brush sweep approach is that we address generation by years, which I think fundamentally needs some relook at, because remember, somebody who was born in 2000, say, 2000, right? In Bangalore versus somebody born in 2000 in Durgapur, right?
Yeah.
Their view, their values are very, very different.
Absolutely.
Their learning ability to assimilate learning could be very, very different, right? So, just kind of saying that, hey, you know what, since they're all born in 2000, this is their way of learning.
Yeah.
These are the engagements of motivation.
Yeah.
I don't think is the right approach. So it's a very complex world. So to make effective learning effective, I think the ability to understand what is the actual need and designing a curriculum or curate a curriculum which is going to make relevance and have an impact, whether it's a skill enhancement or a behavior enhancement, I think has not changed. Rather, it's become even more complex,
Yeah.
right? So while you will have all the platforms and the tools, some of it, by the way, is also to predict what could be learning needs, right? So a very strong AI enabled with enough data at the back end will help you predict some of the learning requirements. But you still need to look at having a conversation with the manager and the person to understand what exactly, time and again we use communication skills is something which is kind of everywhere, right? Now, when you design as a learning professional a communication skills program, it could be at different levels, right? Now, what is that? And even we tend to kind of put everybody into one level without realizing the current or assessing the current requirements of individuals who are attending the program.
Yes.
So your box is ticked. You've done the program, whether again it's through e-learning or whatever the medium, but is the impact or outcome achieved? Right? So two learning leaders that I worked with, I would like to mention Santosh Cherin and Pramod. They would always look at outcome-based learning, which is something that, Ravi, you would have experienced the way we looked at learning in some of the, organizations we worked together.
Yes.
And, you were people who enabled us to make the change and shift and really make learning something which adds value. I'm not a learning expert, but I can assure you my belief that learning makes a significant impact on retention and engagement and organization capability, leading to superior business results is something I don't need anyone to convince me. I was convinced about this 15 years back. I still believe that it's a very critical element that helps organization move forward.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shubhayu. I think with Pramod, I had a question on humor and in learning, the importance of humor in learning. With you, because I've attended a lot of sessions, I was very impacted because of the kind of sessions you do. What's the importance of storytelling while you take sessions, Shubhayu?
So I'm not very good at that, but I can tell you that, one of the ways instructor-led programs, specifically in today's day and age, becomes inspiring, obviously interesting, is when you have stories. Because what do stories tell you? Stories help you get an actual feel of a theory that you are perhaps in the process camouflaging under the story to deliver the impact, right? Otherwise, it becomes very drab.
Yeah.
The moment you share an experience in the form of a story, then it further augments the message that you are trying to convey to the participants. Humor is very, very important. I think gone are the days when a learning facilitator starts a program with a position that I'm superior than yours, right? So I think that kind of helps break the barrier of superiority, helps programs being far more interactive. I mean, I've also believed in the fact that the richness of a program is based on the experiences learners share in the program. So to create that kind of an environment where participants feel that, hey, you know what, it's not a sermon that I'm attending, right? I think that humor and the art of storytelling really helps catalyze an environment which is very open, which is more about, I want to learn, I want to share and learn from each other, including from the facilitator, and the facilitator should feel the same way.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important to have storytelling, have humor. The moment, and this I think is for every job, right? I've always believed, take your job seriously. Don't take yourself too seriously.
Yes.
Right. I think that helps you kind of calm down and realize that you are in it as much to learn as you are trying to help others learn.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. Coming to layoffs, the theme as such, we've been seeing post-COVID, across the board, the larger companies, the smaller companies, the startups, everywhere you see a lot of layoffs and people actually struggling. So there are two questions. One is from a HR end, because we need to lay off because of a policy decision by the board members. There's not much control that the HR has at that point of time. How can we humanely lay off people? That's question number one. Secondly, what are your recommendations? What are your insights for people being ready in case a layoff happens? These are the two questions.
Yeah, so I think, I perhaps have been a little fortunate that I have not had the experience of conveying such bad news to people, or myself haven't gone through it. So I can just share what my thoughts would be, and perhaps how I would have reacted and responded to a situation like this, which is fundamentally very unfortunate, right? Uh, I think from a HR lens perspective, before a board comes to a decision, I think HR needs to be involved in that decision in terms of how you're going to do it, right? Obviously, when the decision comes at a board level, there is data, there is, a lot of history and, thinking behind it. And I sincerely hope that the HR function is actively involved in it, because there are a lot of elements there which have to be, it's about people, right? So whether it's the way you look at treating people humanely, whether it's the way you look at giving them some financial buffer so that they can tide over at least for a few months, assuming that the business can afford that. I think these are some of the elements which need to get into the decision, right? The other piece is that, if you have a line of business which is completely being, closed down, then you probably can't take a call. But if it's some people in a particular line of business, I think how you decide or choose that set of people is important, right?
Yeah.
And most importantly, if you are taking a decision to shut down a business and hence, or kind of reduce staff in a business and hence it's going to result in layoffs, I've always felt that it's good to kind of keep communicating to people. It shouldn't come as a sudden shock, right? I mean, I think the entire world knows that the situation in the job market is pretty grim, right? So I think it's important that you as a company keep communicating to your people as to what the business outlook is and what it might result in. I think that kind of transparency we owe to our people. Our people are not idiots. They understand. They just expect that the company is also transparent. Just think about it. Because of COVID, in some sense, COVID in a very perverse manner made us realize that, hey, we need to communicate more with our people. In one of the companies I worked in before, I think the CEO in those 2 years spoke probably 70% more than regular years with the last staff in the company. He would have never done it before. Why not? Why does it require COVID to kind of make us realize all this? So similarly, that communication, transparency, that, hey, this is coming our way. I know it's difficult because it kind of creates concerns in the organization. People might start looking out, and some of the good people that you don't want to lose might look out. But the transparency in communication and getting people ready that, there is bad news and why there is bad news.
Yeah.
The other thing, Ravi, remember, sometimes companies unfortunately tend to jump on the bandwagon because everybody else is laying off, we'll also lay off.
Yeah.
Or we'll reduce the benefit, right? I think my message to such companies is employees remember you when the times are bad and how they've been treated.
Absolutely.
Right? I think that's important. And I recall in 2007-8 when the IT sector wasn't doing well.
Yeah.
We had some consultants come and tell us that, hey, why don't you reduce your learning budgets? Why don't you reduce some of the benefits?
Right.
And fortunately, we could afford not to do it. But it would have been so easy to do it because everybody else was doing it.
Yes.
Right? And we stayed put and said that, no, we are privileged that we don't need to do it, and hence we will not do it.
Absolutely.
Right? And people remembered us for that.
Yes.
Right? So I think the fundamental thing is communicate well and enough in advance so that people are not shocked by sudden news impacting them. Be human in the way you treat people. So when you're having a conversation with someone, let it not be a very abrupt conversation. There should be enough grace given to people in the conversation, and just not HR's job. I think even, the business leaders should do it that way. And being open and upfront, I think, helps you build that credibility of why you are doing what you are doing.
Absolutely.
I think the what everyone knows, the why, and how the company is enabling you in this tough situation.
Yes.
These are things which I genuinely believe would go a long way. It will never reduce the impact because somebody is losing a job, but it will definitely ease the impact and give that person that respect, that, hey, you know what, and the value that, this is something which the company didn't have any other choice, but they're doing it gracefully, right? Tell me how many companies, you've heard this, because this is a topic that is being discussed in so many forums. 8 out of 10 companies don't do a good job, right? And all the credibility and trust you built as a company goes away in that 15-minute conversation when you're asking someone to leave because you've not done it in a manner which you could have done.
Absolutely.
Right? So taking that ownership is very important in my view. The other part is from an employee perspective, I think it's important that you don't stop learning. I think you need to continuously see how you can evolve in terms of your capabilities, whether functionally or behaviorally, because you never know. I mean, if you are very, very complacent with what you are doing, then, and especially if it's a role that is very, very, SOP driven, right? Remember that that job might go one day. A bot will take over that job,
Yes.
right? So on one hand, there are jobs being lost, but remember that there are jobs being created as well, right? Now, to do those jobs, you need to upskill yourself. And sometimes the companies might not be able to give you that infrastructure, so it's up to you.
Yes.
I mean, I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I was talking to somebody who is an IIM Calcutta graduate, right? Very strong experience in a particular function, and he's looking for a job, right? So the scenario is not good. So I think it's important that you continue to build capabilities. You continue to be not comfortable in your zone that you've been in the last few years, and try to reinvent yours. It's easier said than done. It's very easy to, for you and me to discuss this.
True.
But, I think that urge to reinvent yourself, the urge not to be comfortable in what you're doing, I think it's very important to build as an attitude and, have it in the DNA of you as a profession.
Absolutely, Shubhayu. Lovely insights. The last one to you, Shubhayu. Who have been the largest influencers personally and professionally?
Yeah, this is a tough one because if this goes on air and some names are not included, I might have a challenge at home and also at work. But I'll take a stab at it. I think one of the leaders that I have truly been blessed to work with, and I continue to work with, is Avik Mukherjee. He was heading the offshore delivery centers for Wells Fargo when I joined there in HR. Few attributes. One is functionally, I think I have not come across somebody who is functionally so well equipped and so capable as Avik across functions. I don't think I learned as much in HR from anyone else, including my B school, as I did from Avik, right? And the other part, I think, is, we keep talking about this, which is humility and humaneness. It's unbelievable. I mean, there are a lot of people who want to continue working with him is because of that, right? And the third piece is empowerment. I think the way he would empower people.
Yeah.
I mean, he strongly believed that it's a people's business and HR is the conscience keeper of culture and people practices. So, I think all of us were fortunate to work with him because he didn't have to create that seat on the table. He personally believed that if I have a good, strong HR function, they should be there, right? So Avik Mukherjee is clearly one person that is top of the list. I think the other person is a lady called Smita Anand, who was my manager in PwC when I was doing HR consulting. Seldom have I come across somebody who is so high on emotional quotient. I think IQ was never a question, but such strong EQ really helped us, have that psychological safety, especially when it came to, playing around in the consulting world. I mean, we were kind of newcomers to HR.
Right.
And the way she helped and guided us into who we finally became perhaps is something that I always cherish. I think on the personal front, I would really talk about two people. One is, of course, my father. I mean, I haven't seen him in action, but you know, and somebody had told me once that if I were even 2% of him, I would have probably been a great professional, uh, which indirectly said that I was useless. But I think he overcame so many odds because he would never cease to dream. I think dreaming is something which is very important for each one of us. I mean, you need capability, but you should never stop dreaming, right? So in the professional life, he came from a background which was not an English medium school. He wasn't a qualified engineer, but he became the works manager of one of the biggest plants in Durgapur.
Right.
I've heard him address people in English,
Mm.
and I don't think I've heard anyone speak as well as he has.
Right.
And it was essentially because he dreamt that he would want to do well in life, right?
Great.
The third would be, I think, the other person in the personal life would be my wife. I think I've learned a lot from her in terms of, in terms of the passion and desire to do well, right? Accountability, taking accountability of one's action, getting things to closure, the energy, the drive. I think it's something which, at the same time handling, because she was, she left her marketing career and moved into sales. Moved into education, being part of schools. Handling children, handling parents, at the same time, never ever compromising on quality of the work.
Right.
Right. Uh, Absolutely amazing. I think it's been truly a pleasure.
How about
to
your
learn.
daughter? You're forgetting your daughter there.
My daughter, yes, I think he's probably a good mix of the two of us, and thankfully more of my wife than me. I think with her, apart from the fact that I see, and I think it's probably something which I see in this generation. I really have a lot of respect and admiration for this generation. And I'm talking about a generation which has grown up in metro cities, so they're perhaps different in terms of how they've grown up, their access to information, than maybe somebody who has not been in a metro city. I think the clarity of thought and the amount of data that people have and the ability to connect data to logic is something which is truly remarkable, right? And that's another element which I forgot to mention earlier. For in any professional, I think this ability to work with data. We are talking about generative AI and all of that, but a step before, which is, as HR and learning professionals, are we able to really understand data in a manner where we can create models? Some could be even descriptive, but going eventually to models which are predictive.
Yeah.
I think very, very important, right? So I see that in the generation of today, that the ability to kind of understand data and link data to logic and their points of view is something I truly admire in my daughter, Ahana.
We've been following you on Facebook, so obviously the next question is your favorite of dogs. I mean, you've always had dogs. So what's the one you have now? What's the breed you have now?
So we have a big bear, in the house, which is a German Shepherd.
Yeah.
So the only thing is that he looks like a bear, and he's truly like Balu the bear. So he's extremely good and friendly, and he's huge, right?
Yeah.
But he's exceedingly friendly. So he's a rescue.
Right.
Right. And I've loved dogs because I've learned a lot from dogs, by the way. I think that unalloying love and absolutely, it's very difficult to define the loyalty. So this fellow further reiterated that. So Leo, our dog, is a rescue. He was abandoned twice.
Right.
But his love for people and faith in people, I think, is something we all humans could learn from. Right. And I know I'm treading on dangerous ground because a lot of people are uncomfortable with dogs. But try keeping one. Your life will become far more enriched than anything else. I mean, every time you get back home and whatever be the stress that you have accumulated at work or otherwise,
Right.
you open the door, he's there, tail wagging,
Right.
so happy to greet you, and you
Right.
will never get that kind of affection, love, and loyalty from any other species that God created, perhaps.
Absolutely. I heard Dhoni also say that even when he loses matches, right, when he goes back home, there are three dogs which love him in spite of him losing. So that's his comment.
Yeah, so I think that's true. I mean, thanks for bringing it up. I mean, yeah.
Absolutely, Shubhayu. Thanks so much, Shubhayu. So what we covered in this podcast, a lot of insights for young L&D and HR management professionals as such. We looked at future of learning, future of AI in HR, your unique take on layoffs and how to be prepared, both at the HR end as well as the people end as such, and people who have actually influenced you professionally and personally, Shubhayu. Thanks so much for your time. I think I'll come back maybe after 6 months or so with another burning topic, and hopefully, if you accept, we can do another podcast 6 months down the line, Shubhayu. But thanks a lot for your time, Shubhayu.
Good.
HR professionals would love hearing your perspectives on the topics we have dealt with today.
It was an absolute pleasure, Ravi, and I think there are a lot of sentiments associated with friends that I worked with in Wells Fargo, because I think together we had created something that we are fundamentally very proud of, and always so good to connect with the friends from Wells Fargo. So thank you for the opportunity, and hopefully this will be of some use to someone who's listening in. And it's a great initiative, by the way. I should have mentioned this earlier. This initiative that you have taken in, because a lot of learning gets accentuated by experience sharing.
Yes.
Right. And I think those nuggets of wisdom that sometimes a textbook might not be able to provide,
Yes.
because they're probably less contextual,
Yeah.
are through some of these sessions. So hopefully, as you get more people to speak,
Sure.
And you get more leaders to come in and join this platform,
Yeah.
it will be something which will help everyone, including my learning journey. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Shubhayu. Thank you so much.